Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the morning after, in which I really think now, after looking at other shows and doing my research, I'm going to have to change the name of my show. There is other shows out there called the morning after, and I do want to be unique in what I'm doing here and what I provide. So, like I proposed last week, I will do better this week than I did last week. So let's start right off and get to it. Big week in sports this past week. Let's start off with the NBA winners and losers. There were some big names that made a lot of organizations, some big names got moved around. It started off with Kristaps Porzingis getting traded from the Knicks to the Dallas Mavericks, where he goes and joins another very young basketball player. And the deal involved 6 players and 2 draft picks, and in a situation where Kristaps Porzingis isn't even playing, and he gets to the Mavs where Luka Doncic is, and they look like it could be the works of a great dynamic duo, but what else is in the books, we don't know. Only Mark Cuban knows what he has up his sleeves for that organization. And as far as the Knicks are concerned, it is a good move for them because they are able to dump some of Porzingis' contract, which will allow them to go out and really be aggressive in next year's free agent market, which you will see and find out there are some very big names that are going to be free agents next year. Also looking at the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference, it looked as though the Eastern Conference were more the movers and shakers than the Western Conference were. They had even the teams in the top tier of the Eastern Conference made some major moves. You had the Milwaukee Bucks, who is right now leading the Eastern Conference. They went out and got Nikolai Mirotic from the New Orleans Pelicans. I almost called them the Penguins, I'm sorry. The New Orleans Pelicans, which would provide them with more shooting, which would give them a spacer or a stretch 4 per se, someone that can hit the outside three-pointer. The problem with Mirotic is right now and recently he hasn't been healthy and playing for the Pelicans. I don't know if that was a play because they were trying to move him. So they were trying to keep him healthy for whoever his next team might be. The Toronto Raptors, who are second in the East, they went and got Marc Gasol from the Memphis Grizzlies. A trade in which saw the Memphis Grizzlies get a few players in return, but the caliber of player that Marc Gasol is, it's going to be very interesting to see him not only come off the bench, but what he can provide to the Raptors moving forward, and especially in what could possibly be a long playoff run for that organization. And then at number 3, you have the Pacers. The Pacers did not make any trades per se, but they were very active in the buyout session of the trading deadline. So for those of you out there that don't know how it works, a lot of trades, the trading deadline was last Thursday at 3 o'clock. After the trading deadline is over, there is a possibility, a time period in which NBA organizations can go ahead and buy out contracts for players. For instance, most players that are bought out are seasoned veterans who have pretty big contracts, who the team is either looking to move or just get them that money moved off of their payroll. For instances, for this year's buyout period, where Jeremy Lin was just bought out today, matter of fact, Monday. He was bought out, and it looks like the Toronto Raptors also made a move for him, and it looks like as though he will be signing a contract with them probably tonight or tomorrow to finish the season out with them. Wayne Ellington, he was let go, and the Detroit Pistons made a play for him. The Detroit Pistons right now sit in the 7th seed in the East, and it is a good move for them because it allows them to bring him on, not pay him a ton of money. And for Ellington, it looks like a good move as well because he'll get more playing time, probably go and be a starter for the Pistons. And then, of course, back to the number 3 seed, the Pacers. They went ahead and got Wesley Matthews, who Wesley Matthews was traded from Dallas to the Knicks. The Knicks were not going to keep him the rest of the season. They let him go, and the Pacers bought out his contract, which is a good move on their end, considering they lost their franchise player, Victor Oladipo, probably about 3 weeks ago, and have been struggling a little bit since then. Then you get to the 4th seed, obviously my team, the Philadelphia 76ers. They make a huge trade the night before the trading deadline was over. They traded Landry Shamet, 2 first-round picks. Who else did they trade? They also traded a 2nd-round pick and a few other pieces to the Los Angeles Clippers to get Tobias Harris, the backup center of Bogdanovic. And if you haven't seen this man, he is a 7'4" giant. Just Google Bogdanovic. You'll have a little bit of a laugh. And Mike Scott, who is a bench player, gritty, gutty bench player, which will really strengthen the Sixers bench moving forward. The move gives the Sixers a starting 5 that looks like Ben Simmons, J.J. Redick, Jimmy Butler, who they traded for earlier in the season, Tobias Harris at the 4, and of course, Joel Embiid. The move was a very big power play for the whole entire organization because this organization has been trusting the process in quote-unquote a tank mode for quite some time, trying to do whatever they can to position themselves for young players. Young players are assets. Draft picks are assets. Well, now, 2 GMs later, on to Elton Brand. Elton Brand flexed his muscle a little bit and went and got Jimmy Butler earlier in the season and Tobias Harris now, which really makes them a force to be reckoned with in the East, and has a lot of 76ers fans believing in this team and this organization and thinking that they could make the next jump onto the NBA Finals. So we will see. There's a lot of questions still up in the air in the NBA. You got a lot of jostling around for positions and who's going to end up where, who's going to have home court advantage going into the playoffs. This week coming up, in the NBA, you have the NBA All-Star break coming up this weekend. So this is going to be an interesting week. Players, not only getting some much-needed time off for the weekend, but also some rest, which will help some teams get healthier in the next couple weeks. The one team in the East that didn't make a move was the Boston Celtics. And then one of the Marcus Morris comes out and makes a comment saying that they're not all on the same page and they're not playing well. They are currently the 5th seed. They do look like they are a bit in disarray, but I have a really good feeling that Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge, the coach and GM, will have everything figured out very soon. So keep your eyes open. A couple things. Also with the NBA season, the Lakers did not end up making the big trade, which was everybody trying to figure out where Anthony Davis would lead or go to. He told the Pelicans he will not sign with them in the offseason, leaving them little wiggle room as to what to do with him. It looks as though he's going to have to play out the season. He was not traded. He will stick with the Pelicans, and I don't know what his playing time situation is going to be the rest of the season moving forward, but I know it's going to be very interesting if you're a organization or a franchise watching him, hoping he doesn't get injured, and also wondering how much money will this basketball player be worth come the off season. So we shall see. With the Lakers not making that trade, you saw a couple games last week that were very, very interesting. That they played in Indiana last week, and they had a few players get fouled and go to the foul line, and it was very interesting to see because the Indiana fans are not shy, and they were saying such things as LeBron's going to trade you, or you're not worthy, or not worth trading. So many different things that the fans were saying was very comical and very interesting to see because you wanted to see how it would affect the players. And a lot of the players on the Lakers roster are very young, and it really, really did affect them. They went on and lost that game to the Pacers by 40 points. And there was a couple other things that happened during the trading deadline that really opened some eyes. For instance, the Sixers were able to move Markelle Fultz, which is the number 1 draft pick that they drafted 2 years ago. They ended up trading him to the Orlando Magic for a number 1 draft pick or a first-round draft pick and 2 number 2 picks, along with a bench piece or a bench player, which was very interesting to see what the Sixers were willing to take for Markelle Fultz or what they were willing to give up just to get rid of Markelle Fultz. For Markelle Fultz, I believe this is a great situation because it moves him to a city where the pressure isn't as high, where the media attention isn't as in your face, as expecting as, say, the Philadelphia media is. But it is a great situation for the Sixers as well because they were able to finally kind of part ways with Markelle Fultz, which you hate to see a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid have to part ways with an organization or an organization have to part ways with them. But you could tell from very early in his career that this was not a good situation. I also want to think or believe that at this point moving forward, kudos to Elton Brand. He took over the GM position from the coach, Brett Brown, who was doing the GM position. And Brett Brown was forced to do the GM position because Brian Colangelo was found putting out tweets from a illegal or a extra Twitter account. And it just, everything that was being said about the players and being hurt and everything like that, it ended up all coming back to Brian Colangelo. So the organization, as the Sixers are, they decided to part ways with Colangelo because really they had no other idea how to deal with the social media situation. And Elton Brand took over the spot. He solidified the spot. He made the roster a lot more competitive this year. He used the assets that were built by Sam Hinkie and Brian Colangelo, and he went out and got really good ball players. I think also kudos to him for being a little fearless in also being able to consult with the coaching staff and the ownership and realize their window of opportunity in basketball isn't always huge, but he went and he made the moves to maybe open the door or open that window a little longer. Moving on from basketball, NBA basketball, because you know I'll keep my college till the end. I wanted to move on to something that I saw this weekend. The American Football Alliance started this weekend. And really it started with not a ton of commercials. I didn't see any commercials about it or advertising or anything like that. It was the AFA, American Football Alliance. Their first game was Saturday night at 8 o'clock. And it was pretty interesting. What I thought was most interesting and good for the league was they didn't have a ton of viewership, but they tied the NBA with viewers and actually might have had a few more viewers than what the Houston Rockets versus the Oklahoma City Thunder game did, which is very surprising because the NBA is just started putting their games on prime time about 2 weeks ago. So the American Football Alliance, there, I gotta say, I watched some of the games. I watched bits and pieces, and I actually had one of those moments where I jumped off my couch and I literally was like, "Wow, I hope that player is okay." There are some very interesting rules that are different than the NFL. The play that I'm speaking of, if you haven't seen it, it happened, I believe, in the second quarter of the Houston game where the quarterback was back to throw a pass and the defensive end came in unhit, hit the quarterback, and his helmet popped off his head and wound up behind him about 6 yards. And the quarterback literally looked okay, but his helmet just popped off. So they allowed to continue to let him play. I think the real star power in the AFA is going to be within the coaching and with the executives. For instance, I'm just going to give you a list of some of the coaches and you'd say, wait a second, I think I know those names. Mike Martz, Mike Riley, Steve Spurrier, Mike Singletary, Rick Neuheisel, Dennis Erickson, all coaches in the AFA trying to kind of help the league out. I don't know if they have any more coaching aspirations, but if you do remember a lot of those coaches when they were retiring or moving on from football, it was very interesting because a lot of them would say they were done with the game. But also with that, there's a couple. They started the league out by having the coaches have a quarterback draft. So all they did was draft their quarterbacks and then move on and pick up their players as free agents. There's a few quarterbacks, in the league with names you might recognize. Christian Hackenberg, still trying to make it in football, was released probably by 3 NFL teams. And now he's trying to make it in the AFA. Aaron Murray, former Georgia Bulldog, is trying to make it in the AFA. I did not get a chance to watch him play. I was always a big fan of him when he was at Georgia. Josh Johnson, who played a few games this year with the Washington Redskins, he's playing in the AFA. So it's going to be interesting moving forward what type of viewership this league will get. I believe this. America loves football. I believe that no matter what, if there is an opportunity to gamble on football, America will be there to watch and gamble and participate. A few rules that are very interesting in the AFA that are not in the NFL. The play clock is 35 seconds and not 40. So it gets the pace of the game going a little quicker. There are no kickoffs. Everything starts off from the 25-yard line, which is very interesting to see. But, the kickoffs is where a lot of injuries and concussions and things like that happen because players run themselves down the field with reckless abandon and then just throw themselves at 3 other players. No extra points. Very interesting rule. 2-point conversions only. So every time you score a touchdown, you have to go for 2. It really shows you what kind of planning and coaching the coaches did from week to week to get 2-point conversions. there are no onside kicks. Instead, it's a 4th and 12, and you have to get the 12 yards in order to keep the ball, and then you move forward from there. I don't know how it's going to work, but I do know this. The opening game in the Alamo Bowl had 30,000 fans at it. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all works out as a league and everything. And I wish everybody the best of luck with that. I know I'll tune in just so I can keep everyone here updated. Couple other things. Kyler Murray decided that he was going to choose football over baseball. Kyler Murray is the quarterback that won the Heisman out of Oklahoma University. A lot of people are giving their opinions on what should he have done that? Is he doing the right thing? This or that? And you know, I don't really have an opinion, but I do understand that you could have a much longer and more profitable career as a baseball player. I know he already has to pay the Oakland Athletics money back because that's the baseball team he was with. I also know that Kyler Murray loves playing quarterback and loves playing quarterback in the spotlight, which I think would give him a great opportunity to do that moving forward. The question is, he's a running quarterback. His size is always going to be questioned. So we'll see how that works out moving forward and who gives him that shot. Couple other things from the NFL. Dak Prescott says he will not accept a Tom Brady offer to play quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, which I think is very comical because honestly, Tom Brady isn't making out too bad for himself, but I really truly believe that Dak Prescott feels as though he should be a top 3 quarterback paid situation. So we're going to see how Jerry Jones plays this out, and maybe Dak Prescott prices himself out of the market moving forward. It's going to be very interesting to see because Dallas has a lot of pieces that they still need to sign in the offseason. On a controversial note in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns signed Kareem Hunt. Now, for those of you that don't know, Kareem Hunt is the football player that was caught on videotape kicking a woman, and the Cleveland Browns, and he was released at that moment by the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs went on to play in the AFC Championship game, and people still wondered what was going to become of Kareem Hunt. Would he ever get a second chance? I know Ray Rice didn't. A few other players did. So it was going to be very interesting to see how this all worked out. But he got a second chance from the Cleveland Browns. I don't disagree with the fact that Kareem Hunt deserved a second chance. What I can't not really wrap my head around is why the Cleveland Browns, they have 3 running backs on their roster already, so it's going to be very interesting moving forward. But, you know, in retrospect, they also don't even know how long Kareem Hunt's going to be suspended for because he really wasn't on an NFL roster. So we'll see how it plays out. I know with a second-year quarterback and a rookie head coach, it seems very volatile to bring in a player that might get ridiculed the way Kareem Hunt's going to. So we'll see how it works. What we need to know in the NFL, this is what we need to know. Dates. It's the NFL offseason, but everybody knows there's 2 seasons in America. The NFL season and the NFL offseason. So the NFL offseason, February 19th is the day that NFL teams can franchise tag their players. And And then March 5th is the last day they can franchise tag their players. From February 26th to March 4th is the scouting combine in Indianapolis at Luke Oil Stadium. And you know every minute of that will be televised on the NFL Network, which I'm okay with. I watch it. I watch reruns of it. March 11th through the 13th, free agency opens. And then April 25th through April 27th, the NFL draft is in Nashville, Tennessee this year. That was going to be very interesting. So moving from football to baseball, because Kyler Murray didn't pick baseball, we're going to just remind everybody that spring training opens for a lot of teams. Pitchers and catchers report this week. I know the Phillies report this week, so it's going to be very exciting stuff seeing how this all works out. I just took the top 10 teams and wrote down what their odds are for winning the World Series. So if I said to you the top 10 teams go like this: the Yankees at 11-2, the Red Sox 7-1, Astros 7-1, Dodgers 15-2, Cubs 9-1. Then you have the Indians and Phillies at 12-1, the Braves and Cardinals at 15-1, and the Nationals at 16-1. I think what I need to do in order to better help you folks out is, and it happens every year, you get this big mix-up of who's where, what team's playing where, what players playing where, who got traded, who got signed in free agency, and all of that stuff. This is what I know. Bryce Harper, Manny Machado still haven't signed. I think once they do sign, all of these odds to win the baseball championship are definitely going to change. What else I do know is I think what really hurts their odds or chances of signing fairly quickly is the fact that you got these big name teams that aren't in the market for these big name players, aka the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers. These teams aren't in play to pick up any of these players, and the market for these players is dwindling. I heard last week that Bryce Harper might sign with the San Francisco Giants. What? Really? Okay. Well, we shall see. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if you people remember, but J.D. Martinez didn't sign until February 26th of last year, which was about a week and a half into spring training. So we will see how this works out. I know a lot of people, myself included, are very interested to see where these free agents go. And I almost feel like moving forward that MLB will probably put a free agency date where all teams have to have their free agents signed moving forward. There are still a lot of big name free agents still out there. Gio Gonzalez, Dallas Keuchel, Mike Moustakas. But I think within the next couple of days, you'll really see these players being signed. The one thing about all these players have in common, not all, but most of them are in their 30s or 30, and we all know that professional sports is a young person's game. So we'll see where they all end up and see how these odds change, and maybe I'll get more of a baseball-only show where my perspective changes and switches to where these baseball teams are going to end up. We still have spring training to get through, and it's going to be very interesting. And along with spring training, injuries, etc. All right, so before we move to my last topic, which is college hoops, because you know I love ending with some college hoops. Congrats to Phil Mickelson. Phil Mickelson, at the age of 49, won the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am golf tournament this past weekend, which really moving forward is interesting to see where golf will be in the upcoming year. The Masters is right around the corner, and I love being able to sit down on Sunday afternoon with my wife and watch the Masters and see, who's jockeying for position, who's where, and the Saturday before, moving day. What also is very much into play is the older guys, and you're not old. Trust me, age is just a number. Phil Mickelson at 49, Tiger Woods coming back from injury. where these guys will compete with the Spieth, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, where they are all going to end up, how it's all going to end up, who's going to end up where. And quite honestly, can anybody catch Justin Rose right now? Because he is playing some phenomenal golf. But the Masters is always in Augusta, which plays to Phil's, and Phil has 3 wins at Augusta, and Tiger plays well at Augusta. And this year, it just so happens that the U.S. Open is at Pebble Beach. So we shall see how the golf season turns out. I know I'll tune in just because it's fun to watch on Sunday, sit down, have a nice cold beer, and watch some Sunday golf. All right, so let's get to where it is for me. All right, it's that time of year. I get tuned up and I tune in for every college basketball game possible. I know it sounds crazy. If you didn't know or weren't aware, there were 146 college basketball games played on Saturday. I probably watched 90 of them. I'm kidding. I didn't. I don't have that many channels. My wife would literally be bugging out about it. But I do watch so much college basketball that my wife will walk into the door at any point of any day and go, "Oh, look, another college basketball game is on." That's right, babe, because you know me, I'm the guy that will sit there and watch Eastern Tennessee State University against Furman, or watch the Northern Kentucky Norse play whoever they're playing in their division. I'm that kind of guy. I just love college basketball that much. So the latest rankings came out. And I think what we've learned over the past weekend is that some conferences are definitely going to have more teams in than others. It looks like the Pac-12 might get a team in. Come on, Washington, I'm pulling for you. But all in all, it looks like the tournament might be very dominant on the 5 power conferences, which isn't a problem, but I hope everybody does keep in mind and keep an eye out on some of these smaller conferences. I've already named a few smaller teams: Northern Kentucky, Eastern Tennessee State, Bowling Green State, Furman, Buffalo, VCU, Wofford. All these teams have a legitimate shot of getting looked at. And when you're filling out your bracket, I will be there and I will help you, because trust me, I've watched them. The number 1 seed sitting at right now: Tennessee, Duke, Gonzaga, Virginia. Number 2 seeds: Kentucky, Michigan, Nevada, UNC. 3s: Houston, Marquette, Michigan State, Purdue. 4s: Villanova, Kansas, Texas Tech, Louisville. What that shows me is I think that the West Coast doesn't get much respect whatsoever. Gonzaga, very well a number 1 seed. But Nevada, if you haven't watched Nevada play, they're called the Wolfpack. They play at 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. If you get them on a Sunday afternoon game or a 7 p.m. game, please, ladies and gentlemen, tune in. Eric Musselman is doing a wonderful job coaching Nevada Wolfpack. They have twins that play on their team, and they are dynamic. So it's a very fun watch. I watched a very fun game this past weekend. Houston Cougars played Cincinnati Bearcats. It was a Sunday afternoon game. I got to sit down and watch the game. Houston is a lot better than people realize. Their coach has been around the block or two. I'm gonna pronounce his name wrong. Kellen Sampson, I think he coached at Oklahoma. He's a very, very good coach, and he has that team playing very well. What did we learn this past weekend? First of all, if Duke hits their 3-pointers, because they played Virginia this past weekend, no one's going to beat them. No one. I repeat, no one. And I'm a North Carolina fan, so trust me, it kills me to say that. But if they hit their threes, it could be trouble. We also found out that Virginia can beat every other school in America besides Duke. They are 20-0 against every other team. They are 0-2. Tonight, Monday, February 11th, they got a big game against North Carolina. Trust me, I'll be tuned in. Michigan Michigan's going to be a very tough out come tournament time as long as they play well and hit their shots. Purdue, Michigan State, all these teams in the Big Ten, it's going to make for a very interesting Big Ten tournament. I'm very excited for that. I love conference tournaments. I think that's where you get a lot of your upsets that people don't even realize. Tennessee is a legit number one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, the Tennessee Vols are a legit number one. What might stand in their way of going the rest of the season undefeated? They have won 18 straight games. Well, quite honestly, Kentucky. Kentucky is playing their best basketball right now in the Bluegrass State, and it's going to be very fun to watch to see who ends up where, who gets those 1 seeds. We are, I want to say, 34 days away from Selection Sunday. And ladies and gentlemen, I will be tuned in. I will help you. I will help you fill out your brackets. I might even have a bracket buster that you can join. Sign up for my bracket buster. But please stay tuned, okay? I will always make sure that I do better the next time than I did this time. I just wanted to whet your appetite a little bit on a few topics. I will stay tuned and keep my nose to the grindstone and keep you updated on sports moving forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, signing off. This is George Sigle, and remember, row the boat. Till next time. Thanks.